Imagine you haven't brushed your teeth for an entire week. Each morning, your mouth feels a little worse. A rough film covers the surface of your teeth. Old food remains trapped in places your tongue cannot reach. Your gums feel tender. Your breath changes. And whenever someone moves close to your face, you instinctively lean away. Now imagine there is no toothbrush in your bathroom, no toothpaste, no dental floss, no mouthwash, no dentist waiting when the pain begins. Today, brushing your teeth feels normal. You stand in front of a mirror, squeeze mint-flavored paste onto a plastic brush, and move it around your mouth for a few minutes. Then you rinse and continue with your day. You barely think about it. But for almost all of human history, this familiar tool did not exist. Your ancient ancestors still had food trapped between their teeth. They still developed plaque. Their gums still became irritated. Their teeth still cracked, wore down, and sometimes decayed. A painful tooth could make eating difficult. It could disturb sleep. It could weaken a person who already lived close to the edge of survival. So what did ancient humans do before the toothbrush? Who invented the first real brush? And why did humans begin cleaning a part of the body that most animals simply leave alone? The answer begins long before bathrooms, dentists, or written history. It begins with pain. Imagine one of your ancestors sitting beside a fire. They have eaten tough meat, seeds, roots, or fibrous plants. A small piece of food becomes trapped between two teeth. At first, it is only annoying, but hours later, the gum begins to ache. The person presses the area with their tongue. They bite down. The pain remains, so they pick up a thin piece of wood. They push it carefully between the teeth. They scrape the gap. The food comes loose. The pressure disappears. For a moment, the pain is gone. This simple action may represent one of humanity's earliest forms of oral care. Archaeologists have found grooves between prehistoric teeth that appear to have been created by repeated toothpicking. The practice is documented extremely early in the human story and was common among Neanderthals and Paleolithic modern humans. The tools were probably small pieces of wood, bone, or another narrow material used to remove food or soothe irritated gums. This was not yet a toothbrush, but it revealed an important idea. The mouth did not have to be left completely to nature. Pain could sometimes be reduced. Food could be removed. The body could be maintained with a tool. But here is where the story becomes difficult to follow. Stone tools can survive underground for hundreds of thousands of years. Wooden sticks usually cannot. Plant fibers decay. Small pieces of bark are burned or thrown away. A chewing stick used beside a campfire could disappear without leaving any clear evidence behind. So the first object used like a toothbrush may be far older than archaeology can prove. At some point, people discovered that a twig could do more than pick between teeth. If one end was chewed again and again, the wood began to separate. Hard bark became soft fibers. The end spread outward. It began to resemble a tiny natural brush. Now the user could rub several teeth at once. They could scrape the surface. They could massage the gums. They could clean areas that a single toothpick could not reach. The first toothbrush may therefore have been nothing more than a carefully selected stick. Different societies used different plants. Some were chosen because they separated easily into fibers. Others had a strong taste or smell. Some contained natural substances that may help reduce bacteria, while the rubbing action physically removed plaque. One of the best-known examples is the miswak, often made from the Salvadora persica tree. Modern research suggests that miswak can help control plaque and gum inflammation when used correctly, but its effectiveness depends on technique, just as a modern toothbrush only works when it reaches the right places. Picture an ancient person preparing one. They cut a narrow branch. They remove part of the bark. They chew the exposed end until it becomes soft. Then they rub it along their teeth. There is no toothpaste foam, no timer, no mirror, only the feeling of fibers moving across enamel. The smell of the plant fills the mouth. The gums are pressed and cleaned. When the fibers become dirty or worn, the person cuts them away and begins again. Simple, portable, made directly from the landscape. But this was not only about survival. Humans do not live alone. We speak close to one another. We share food. We recognize family members by their faces, voices, and smells. We choose friends and partners. We notice when another person appears healthy or unwell. A damaged mouth could affect far more than eating. It could change speech. It could alter the face. It could produce visible stains or an unpleasant smell. Cleaning the teeth may therefore have carried a social advantage. A cleaner mouth could make close interaction easier. Fresh-smelling plants may have helped hide the odor of old food or infection. And repeated cleaning could become a sign of self-control, maturity, status, or respect. This is how a survival behavior can become a cultural ritual. You no longer clean only because something hurts. You clean because it is morning. You clean before speaking to others. You clean before prayer. You clean because the people around you believe that a cared-for body reflects a disciplined mind. Historical records show that tooth cleaning became connected with religious purification in several societies. The Smithsonian notes that an English observer described cleaning the teeth with a brush as part of Muslim post-prayer washing practices. The object was no longer only a medical tool, it had become part of daily identity, but the stick still looked very different from the toothbrush in your hand. So when did the familiar bristle brush appear? The exact beginning is uncertain. Wood, bone, and animal hair do not always survive clearly enough for historians to trace one perfect moment of invention. However, the earliest known examples resembling a handled toothbrush were probably made in China during the Tang dynasty, between 618 and 907 CE. These brushes used a firm handle with animal hairs attached to one end. Instead of creating fibers by chewing wood, craftspeople built the brush from separate materials. The handle gave the user greater control. The hair created a wider cleaning surface. The tool could be washed, stored, and used again. According to the Smithsonian, knowledge of this Asian technology later moved westward through the travel of merchants, monks, and other people crossing regions and exchanging ideas. But here is what is fascinating. A useful invention does not immediately become an everyday object. For centuries, many people continued cleaning their teeth with cloth, toothpicks, salt, powders, fingers, or chewing sticks. Some people probably did very little. A manufactured toothbrush required materials and skilled labor. Handles could be made from wood, bone, ivory, silver, or other expensive substances. The bristles might be stiff and uncomfortable. They could remain wet and dirty between uses, and every brush had to be constructed by hand. In 17th century Europe, toothbrushes were still unusual enough to be mentioned as valuable personal objects. A wealthy Englishman living in Paris described small tooth-cleaning brushes decorated with silver and gold. Samuel Pepys later recorded buying a bundle of second-hand toothbrushes. The scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek, who used a microscope to examine material from his teeth, cleaned his mouth with toothpicks, cloth, and salt rather than relying only on a brush. The toothbrush existed, but it had not yet conquered the world, and the reason people needed it was also beginning to change. For most of prehistory, human diets varied across landscapes and seasons. People ate meat, plants, seeds, nuts, roots, fruits, and whatever else their environment provided. Many foods were tough and fibrous. Then agriculture spread. Large populations began depending more heavily on grains and other carbohydrate-rich foods. Soft-cooked starches could remain stuck to teeth. Oral bacteria consumed these carbohydrates and produced acids. Over time, tooth decay became more common in many farming populations. The mouth had entered a new environment, and centuries later, industrialization changed it again. Refined flour and sugar became increasingly available. Food became softer, sweeter, easier to eat, and easier for decay-causing bacteria to exploit. Researchers studying ancient dental calculus have found that the communities of microbes living in the human mouth changed alongside major shifts in diet and lifestyle, including the Neolithic transition and the Industrial Revolution. This creates a strange contradiction. Modern humans possess the most advanced dental tools in history. We have soft nylon bristles, fluoride toothpaste, dental floss, electric brushes, professional cleaning, fillings, and root canals. Yet tooth decay remains one of the most familiar health problems on Earth. We think the toothbrush simply represents human progress, but it also represents a growing struggle against the world we created. Your mouth evolved in one environment. Now you feed it in another. Ancient humans did not drink sweet liquids throughout the day. They did not constantly snack on soft processed foods. They did not live surrounded by refined sugar. The modern toothbrush is not merely a better version of the chewing stick. It is a defense against a modern food system. But the most surprising discovery takes us back nearly 14,000 years. In 2015, archaeologist Gregorio Auxilia and a team of researchers examined a tooth from a young man found at the Villa Bruna rock shelter in northern Italy. The tooth contained a large cavity. Under powerful microscopes, the researchers found tiny scratch marks inside it. Experiments showed that the marks were probably produced by a pointed flint tool used while the man was alive. Someone had entered the decayed area and scraped or levered away damaged tissue. This is considered the earliest known evidence of direct treatment of a dental cavity long before farming and thousands of years before the bristle toothbrush. Think about what that scene required. The young man had to open his mouth, He had to remain still. Another person brought a sharp piece of stone toward the painful tooth. There was no anesthetic, no electric light, no written medical guide, only experience, trust, and the belief that human hands could reduce suffering. The person performing the treatment may have adapted a familiar toothpicking movement. A tool once used to remove trapped food became something closer to primitive surgery, and this changes the way we should think about ancient dental care. The first toothbrush was not born from a desire for a perfect white smile. It emerged from something deeper: the need to keep eating, the need to control pain, the need to remain useful to the group, the need to speak closely to another person without shame or discomfort. Over time, survival became habit. Habit became ritual. Ritual became technology. And technology became something so ordinary that you barely notice it. Today, you may brush while looking at your phone. You may rush through it because you are tired. You may forget the movement as soon as it is finished. But your hand is repeating an ancient idea. Long before plastic, your ancestors pushed wood between their teeth. Long before toothpaste, they chewed plants until the fibers became soft. Long before dentists, one human placed a stone tool inside another human's painful mouth and tried to help. The materials changed, the knowledge grew, but the purpose remained: to protect the body from tomorrow's pain. For thousands of generations, humans cleaned their teeth with pieces of the natural world: a sliver of bone, a rough cloth, a pinch of salt, a fragrant root, a small twig chewed into a brush. Today, you hold a tool designed in a factory and replace it without thinking. Yet every morning and every night, you continue a ritual older than recorded history. The first toothbrush was not simply the beginning of cleaner teeth. It was the moment humans decided that suffering could sometimes be prevented.